Hello, welcome or welcome back here on my channel. I'm Danilo and today I want to talk a little bit about how to shuffle our cards. Now, uh, we should ask ourselves kind of 2 to 3 questions before we decide how we are going to shuffle or what's the method we want to adopt for forever. And the first question is, do we read reversals? Because if we do, we need to shuffle our cards in a way that creates random upside down cards, of course. The second one is the size, the measures of the cards, because depending on that factor, it can really be difficult to use one method or another, or rather, there are a few that are just easier. And then the more technical side of our deck of our cards. So aside from the sizing, which we can easily do by eye, by keeping them in our hands, comparing them to other decks, we need to see the finish, the thickness of our cards, if they're flexible, if they are rigid, if they are the kind of cards that's going to bend and then crease in the middle if we riffle shuffle, or if that's not going to be a problem, if the edges are prone to detaching themselves, so basically the layers of paper they make the card kind of tend to separate, and therefore we are going to have frayed edges that can kind of block each other. So we need to think about these things before we make our lives more difficult for ourselves when we shuffle, when we read cards, and maybe ruin our cards. So for example, I know, because it happened with the full-size version of this deck, the 1889 Lenormand, these cards are going to crease in the middle if I riffle shuffle, so I'm not going to do that with this deck more than once for this specific video and the Italian version, so twice technically. While I have no idea if these two gets ruined, this kind of cardstock is rather good. This is the Tarot of the Golden Wheel, and this can kind of crease in the middle over time, over a lot of uses. This is kind of new. I had it for a couple of months, I think, 2 or 3, but I haven't used it yet, so I'm not sure, but I feel they're thin, I feel they're flexible. It is a linen finish, so it should be able to withstand a riffle shuffling. Something that's rigid, it's going to crease in the middle. I'm cutting this card, it's a project, you can't really see with this. Let me see if I can maybe here. Now I'm not sure if the light is gonna show it, but you can see there is a kind of a crease. These cards do this when they get riffle shuffled because they are a rigid cardstock. They're not exactly thick, but they're kind of the same with this, but this is a little bit more flexible. Of course, the bigger the card, the more flexible it appears to be. So maybe if these were tarot size, that wouldn't have been an issue, but because they're small, they kind of get rigid. When you riffle shuffle, you bend them, and of course this over time cause creases, white creases in the painted or printed layer, so you ruin your color, you ruin your artwork. Now, what is a refill shuffling? Let's start with that method of shuffling our cards. So a refill shuffle is the casino card dealer sort of thing. So you go like this. You divide your deck in two. You one way or another flip it, and then with your thumbs you progressively let the cards go, and so they get stuck one on top of the other. So then when they are like this, you just help them get together in one even pile. Now, if you read with your cards just right side up, let's say, or like you don't read reversal, just like that, so you divide your deck and you go upside down with one of the two halves, because when you then let them go, they are back to be right. If you read reversals, instead of going upside down, you go front to back, or right to left, depending on how you want to see it, because when you then combine the two halves, you have this upside down, this right side up. I'm sorry, I'm missing the way to say this in English, but anyway, these are straight, these are upside down. Of course, with the Referral Shuffle method, they are all going to be combined, and so this works. If you read the reversals but you do not use a Referral Shuffle method, you can do one of two things. The first thing is a slower way of shuffling your cards, but is nonetheless useful. So you basically do piles, how many you want, and then you combine them in different orders compared to when you cut your decks. And of course, instead of going like this, if you go and flip it, these are going to be upside down, so you can go and read your reversals. It's kind of slow, it's kind of almost never used, so maybe it's useful after a simple handover shuffle, and then if you just want to have them your deck already cut and then pick the cards you're going to read. So if you like go like this, and then you read your cards this way instead of combining them together into one pile and then go and pick them and read them. Then the handover, you can do it like this, so this way, or even this way. Maybe with shorter cards it will be better. I suppose seeing these cards kind of collapsing, I could just flip them and so have my reversals, or just keep them straight. Or you can do this sort of method, or over, under, over, under, over, under. This is useful if you read jumpers, so you go like this, or again over, under, and you wait for a jumper, maybe for an oracle deck, so you know that's the card with the message. It's not like I have two cards like here, the Sun, the Hermit, so that's an option. Then to have your reversals, to produce your reversals, you can also do the Decals method, which is you have your deck with your hand, one way or another, you go and start to, okay, the base is a little bit too slippery, it seems, but it's going to work anyway. So you go, oops, of course you do not have other decks maybe this close to your main one, so you go like this. When you're done, when you feel it's the shuffle, the how you want them, you can either go and pick them intuitively, so like this and whatever, or you can then combine once again your cards into an even pile of cards, and then you can go and cut and whatever. As I said, the size of your cards matter. Now this is rather let's see, yeah, this could be a smidge taller than a regular tarot size. Yes, they are slightly taller, but they're not that different. So any tarot, regular tarot size should work like this when it comes to the length and width of your cards, not when it comes to the cardstock and the finish. That's going to change. That's going to be taking consideration deck from deck. Usually if you refill shuffle, you should go for thinner decks and be careful with the very papery feeling ones. Now let's go one slightly smaller. I like to refill shuffle, so I'm gonna try that a second. Again, this is a new deck, so it's a little bit rigid. It's going to soften a little bit the more I use it, the more I do it like this. Of course, I'm going to let the cards go wherever they want, because we are on camera and we cannot waste time, and so that's how it's going to work. Anyway, yeah, it's doable. It's rather fine. Again, this is a poker size card, so these are poker size. Yes, these are poker sized cards, so playing cards measures, sorry, here, and of course over under it's rather comfortable. It's flipped over so I could read it if I was using jumpers or was looking at that sort of thing. You can easily shuffle them however you like. Again, I like refill shuffling. I have actually ruined a couple of decks insisting with the refill shuffle method, even if I had seen it wasn't exactly the best option. So be careful, be prepared to adapt how you shuffle your cards depending on the deck you have in your hand, under your eyes, however you want to call it. So this is good. Again, rather thin, very flexible cards, and it's a linen finish, so it's kind of reflective, and it's not a matte finish by any mean, but it's not also super shiny, because of course the surface is not exactly smooth. Then when it comes to very small mini decks, of course the over under is maybe easier, because you have a little bit more control. You do not, of course I have men on the larger sides and sorry on the larger sides hands, so of course the smaller decks are not exactly easy to shuffle for me. In any case, I bought it because as a Lenormand I wanted a mini that I really liked it for a Grand Tableau. So again, kind of over-under method I think is totally fine. Now Referral Shuffle, again I'm going to do it once because I know these cards are going to get ruined by doing this, so I don't want to, super rigid. These cards, of course they are smaller, so they are more unwielding, I would say. Let's take a little, just a second, I want to compare them with the regular size, the full size deck. Okay, so yeah, again, you see that angle, they are bent. The more I Referral Shuffle with this, the more they're going to run, but I haven't touched the integrity of the cards on this side, so yeah, that's a lot more flexible than this because of the card size. That's the only factor in this. So I would say, generally speaking, the smaller the deck, the more careful you have to be if you are a Referral Shuffler, and of course your cardstock is what's going to be fundamental in deciding what's the best to avoid ruining your cards on the long run. Okay, I am done. I wanted to do just a quick video on the topic, and so I'll see you next week. Bye! Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, hit the bell button to receive notifications. You can follow me on Instagram. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, leave me comments, and bye bye!